a pedagogical approach on blended learning and evaluation. And the speaker for the session is Dr. K. Krishna Kishore from GMRIT. And now I request Mrs. Revati ma'am to invite guest.
Good morning to all. It is my immense pleasure to introduce today's guest. Dr. K. Krishnakishore is currently working as a Senior Assistant Professor, Department of ECE, GMRIT. He received his PhD from JNTU, Kakinada. He is in the teaching field for 14 years. He published few papers in the respected journals and conferences. He also published 2 patents. His area of research is machine learning, deep learning, and wireless communications. He is in charge for educational technology and campus automation, GMRIT. Now I am requesting Dr. K. Krishnakishore to take over the session.
Thank you, madam. Good morning, one and all. Is my PPT is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We can proceed.
Okay. Today we will have a discussion on a pedagogy on effective teaching, learning, and evaluation. Before going to the actual content, let me give a quotation from the Benjamin Franklin regarding the teaching learning process. It was the quotation given by the Franklin for the students. Let me tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. And before going to start the session, we will see the generations what we are dealing with. If a person is born in the year between 1940 to 59, we will call them as baby boomers. And if the person who is born between 1960 and 79, we will call them as generation X. And the person who has born between 1980 to 1994, we will call them as generation Y. And if a person born between 1995 to 2010, we'll call it generation Z. So if we see the characteristics of the people, now we are dealing, all the students, what we are dealing is with generation Z. They are very new, they're very...
Sir, it is getting echo, sir.
Not from my end, madam. That is also I'm doing. Hello? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hello? Now it is okay?
Yes, sir. Now it is okay, sir.
Now it is okay.
So, as a faculty, we are in the generation X or generation Y. We are dealing the students with generation Z. So there is a gap in the generation between X and Y and Z. The characteristics of the generation Z is different from X and Y. So while we are talking about teaching and learning pedagogy, we have to see what is the futures of these students. And can anyone tell, as we are very much aware about the NBA and the program outcomes, how many baskets can you divide these program outcomes? Any guess? What is the main theme behind these program outcomes? Generally, these are the derived from the graduate attributes. Now, how many baskets you can keep these program outcomes in? How many groups you can divide the POs, which were derived from the gradual attributes? All of you open your mobile and scan the QR code to give the answer. All of you kindly take your mobiles and scan the QR code to give the answer. Can you see this slide?
Yes, sir. How many groups we can make PO?
Yeah. 5 groups. Any other? At finally, what is the 3 groups? Three groups. Five. Four. So while we are assessing the students at the end of the BTech, what are the things you want to assess that talks about your graduate attributes or your POs? Basically, we have to assess the students in 3 parameters. One, their knowledge. Second one is their skill. And third one is their attitude. So if you look in a broader sense, these POs are classified into 3 groups: knowledge, skill, attitude. Knowledge, skill, attitude, you can reflect in other way. It is just like knowledge talks about the functionality of the brain, whereas skills talk about the psychomotive, all the sensoric organs, and the attitude talk about the heart. So basically, these are the 3 things where your POs are classified. Your POs are classified into 3 groups. So at final, you are validating your students with respect to their knowledge, their skill sets, and their attitudes. So your POs are defined into 3 baskets. So as the POs are defined into 3 baskets, the first basket is knowledge, and the second one is attitude, and the third one is skill. If he was a knowledgeable person, he knows what is what, And if the knowledge is added with the attitude, he knows the purpose of the usage of the knowledge. What purpose he is using the knowledge. And if he knows only the attitude, he knows why he is using that. Attitude talks about why, and knowledge talks about what, and skill talks about how. If a student is having both knowledge and attitude, that is the purpose. If the student is having both attitude and skill, that is the commitment. If the student is having skill and knowledge, that talks about the process. How can you develop a product, or how can you work in a company? That talks about what percentage of knowledge he is having and what percentage of skill he is having. And if the student is having all these three parameters, that is the final ability of the person. So whether we are evaluating the students with these three parameters or not. Anyone? Whether we are evaluating the students by considering all these parameters. This talk about your POs, 12 POs, which we have divided into 3 baskets. Anyone? Whether we are evaluating all the students with respect to these 3 parameters or not.
The percentage may vary, but we are doing.
The percentage may be varied, we are doing. Can I know, sir, what are the tools we are using to evaluate all these 3 parameters? No, just we will
Projects,
have
assignments,
yes,
and then
projects, assignments.
and then quiz, and then as usual the examination, written examination, whatever we do.
Yes. So basically the major tool what we are using is Bloom's taxonomy to measure these parameters. So the major focus of going towards the outcome based education is first, it is not talking about the content what you have in the education system rather than the breadth. So content based education to outcome based education, that is the major focus of OBE. And in the OBE model, teacher will be the whole source of knowledge. He will be the working library for the students. And the third focus on the OBE model is rather than teacher sitting on the stage and teaching, it become a facilitator of the knowledge. So these are the 3 focuses of OBE model. And next we'll go further. What are the characteristics of this OBE? One is student centric, another one is faculty driven, another one is meaningful. Can anyone define what is student centric, faculty driven, and meaningful? What is student centric, what is faculty driven, and what is meaningful? This is the basic philosophy of OBE. By considering any course as an example, what is meant by student centric, faculty driven, and the meaningful?
is based on the student knowledge level.
Yes, sir.
Faculty has to, faculty driven means we have to motivate the student based on the student knowledge. That motivation is required. So that is
Meaningful.
meaningful means the particular outcome
The process.
process. Yes, sir.
Student centric here talks about we are designing a course by considering some learning outcomes of the student. Purely the education system we are developing to have some futures, what is the learning outcomes of the students. And faculty driven indicates that we are designing the course and we are keeping some learning outcomes and we are evaluating the learning outcomes. By evaluating these learning outcomes, we are reframing our structure. So in this entire OBE process, teaching, learning, evaluation plays a major role. At what level you are teaching, at what level you are evaluating is most important. The level of teaching and the level of evaluation should be always same. The level of teaching, the level of evaluation should always in line with your COs. The level at what level you are keeping your learning outcomes of your course. If you are able to teach your course with analyzed level, then you have a CO with analyzed level and you evaluate the students with analyzed level. If you are teaching with understand level, your course should be in a course CO should be in understand level and you evaluate the students with understand level. Keeping course outcome with apply level, teaching in understand level, evaluating with analyze level is a meaningless. So all three should be in line. And majorly one important thing we are missing here is the process. The process. Process in sense, we are framing the syllabus and after framing the syllabus, we are having some COs, basically of 4 to 6. After the syllabus, we are delivering as per the, let us assume that we are delivering as per the level of the COs. After delivering as per the level of COs, and we are evaluating as per the level of COs. After evaluating the level of COs, what measures we are taking for the next batch is most important. Depending upon the outcomes, what you have achieved for the course, what measures you are taking to improve the syllabus or to improve the student learning, anything. That process is entirely missing in the some portion of education system. A learning outcome has to be made observers to the learner even at the outset of learning. The outcome-based model works on bringing out the specific outcome from the learners. What is the basic importance of outcome-based education in terms of a learners? Can anyone give the answer for this? What will be the outcome of a learner in outcome-based education? Outcome with respect to learners. Design down, delivery up, it talks about the curriculum aspect as well as delivery. With respect to the teacher, student centric. When I'm giving some outcomes for the course for a student, what will be the outcome of a learner in learner perspective as a student point of view? He will have the clarity what to focus. That talks about the outcome based model. The purpose of outcomes with respect to students perspective is what to focus, what outcome is teaching, whether we have to focus on the skill or the knowledge, and what level of the skill he has to focus in the syllabus talks about the learning outcome with students perspective. Now coming to our basics, as we know that we had divided our POs into 3 domains. One is knowledge domain or cognitive domain. Another one is psychomotor domain that talks about the skill, and the affective domain that talks about the attitude of the person. But what we are doing is we have different set of rubrics to evaluate, or different set of models for evaluating each domain. Suppose if you take the knowledge domain or cognitive domain, according to the Bloom's taxonomy, we have divided the cognitive domain into 6 levels. That is remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, create. And if you want to assess a student with respect to the skill, we have to use Bloom's taxonomy with respect to the skill domain, but not with the knowledge domain. The skill domain talks about imitation, manipulation, precision, articulation, and naturalization. And the affective domains are receiving, respond, valuing, organization, and internalize. So these are the 3 types of domains to talk about. But what we are doing is, even though we are having POs in 3 domains, we are only using the knowledge domain to evaluate other 2 domains. So that is the major problem. You cannot evaluate a skill set of a student by applying these verbs. Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create is only to assess, as per the Bloom's, it is only to assess the knowledge or the cognitive domain of the student, which talk about the brain. When you want to assess, like some laboratory courses or some term paper or a mini project or the project, the rubrics what you have to use is psychomotive domains, not the knowledge domains. But fortunately, we are using only knowledge domain rubrics for all other 3 skill sets. That is the reason if you observe the things, we cannot have justifications for mapping of some courses with POs. The PO talks about the skill set. The course talks about the knowledge. Or if the course is talking about the skill set of the student, like the project, where it talks about knowledge, skill set, as well as attitude. But you are mapping the project work only with the rubrics what we are having with cognitive domain or knowledge domain. And one more important thing in mapping is, up to now what we are seeing is a one-dimensional mapping in cognitive domain. If you see the cognitive domain, which talks about the knowledge, we have 6 levels of understandings. One is remember level. Remember is nothing but recognizing and recalling the facts. And the second one is understanding level, that talks about understanding what the fact means. And the third one is the apply level, applying the facts or rules or the concept or ideas to the particular situation. And next one is the analyze level. Analyze level is nothing but making them into a pieces and analyzing. Next one is evaluating, that is judging the value of information or ideas or the content, what is available with them. And the final stage is the highest level of thinking is creative, doing the or designing a new model. So these all skill sets talks about only the knowledge domain. Previously, when we are in the schools, our teachers used to have some toys they will keep hide in the backside, and they will ask us to go and see the toys or different items, and they will ask them to write the item names one by one. These games we used to play when we are in kids. When we used to write items one by one, that talks about the recalling, that is the remembering. And the next level, if I ask the student or the teacher asks for the students, what is the importance of each item, that talks about the understanding level of the student. If I ask the student to intercorrelate all the items, that talks about the apply, or what is the importance of item, what is the functionality of each item, talks about apply. And if I ask the student to interconnect the items, then it talks about analyzing which item can be used for what purpose. If he is able to narrate or interconnect all the items to give a new story, that talks about the creativity. So these levels only talks about or gives importance on for knowledge domain. And as you are seeing CO mapping and asking the questions in the question paper, and what type of verbs I have to use, or what types of nouns I have to use for framing the questions in the question paper, or framing a CO, whether I have to use understand, whether I have to use apply. This will comes under when you are using for single one-dimension mapping. If you are going for two-dimension mapping, you can easily write any CO, or you can easily write a higher order or lower order questions. You can easily differentiate what type of level questions you are giving and what type of verbs you are using. For that, you have to go for a two-dimension mapping. One is cognitive process, another one is knowledge dimensions. Suppose if my question is in remember and I am asking about the factuals, then the proper verb I have to use is list. If my question is in remember level and I'm asking the conceptual knowledge on a particular topic, then we go for recognize. And if my question is in remember level, then I'm asking the procedure. What is the procedure to be adapted to do this work in the laboratory? Then I have to ask for recall. The appropriate verb we have to use is recall. And if your question is in remember level and you are asking the knowledge dimension, what you want to test in the remember level is metacognate, then you can ask modify. If your question is in understand level and you want to test the knowledge dimension as factuals, then summarize the concept. If your question is in remember level, understand level, then you want to test the conceptual knowledge in knowledge domain, then the appropriate verb you have to use is classify. If your question is in understand level and you want to test the student knowledge dimension is procedure, then clarify is the appropriate verb. If the question is in understand level, then you want to test the knowledge section is metacognate, then use predict. In a similar manner, if you go for a two-dimension mapping with the levels of knowledge and knowledge dimensions, you will have a clarity on what type of question you are asking and what at what level you are asking the question. So that directly you can use the particular verb. It will give a clear idea for student as well as teacher. So while framing a question or while framing a CO, rather than going for one-dimensional mapping, better use a two-dimensional mapping so that you will have a clear idea at what exactly you want to ask in the domain and what exactly you want to test the knowledge dimension of the student. So this is the importance of your two-dimensional mapping for CO framing as well as question framing. If I want to test a student with respect to the skill set, as we are talking about, our POs are divided into three categories. One is knowledge domain and the skill domain, and the one is attitude domain. So my first level in defining skill set is imitating. Whatever I do in the laboratory, if the student able to observe this and do the same thing, then he is in the level of imitate. The second level in skill set is, or psychomotor domain is manipulate. Now see, I am going to the lab. I am not doing anything, just I am giving the instructions for the students. You connect the circuit, you replace the resistance RF with capacitor so that the circuit acts as a integrator. If I give the instructions, then if the student able to perform their own, that means their psychomotor domain level is manipulate. They're in a position of manipulate the things. The third level of thinking in psychomotor domain is precision. In this, the student has the ability to, if there is some minor errors, suppose if he has connected the circuit but is not able to get the output, now he had to find out the continuity check, whether the circuit is connected correctly, whether the proper input is given, whether the circuit all the components are connected. So he has to take the multimeter and he had to perform the continuity check. For that reason, when if the student able to do these things in the laboratory, this talks about precision. Next one is articulation. Now I have taught a person to design a integrator for 1 kHz. Now I ask the student to develop an integrator, or I will give a situation where it requires the integrator. I want to ask the student to design a circuit which converts a square wave into a triangular wave and the with a different frequency set. Then the student in a position to design the circuit for the new requirements. I have designed the filter for 1 kHz. Now I want to change the cutoff frequency. If he is in a position to change the cutoff frequency and design the filter for new cutoff frequencies, then he is in a position of articulation. For that, you can use the verbs of adapt, revise, adjust, revise, customize. Naturalization is a higher level in psychomotor skill where the student has the ability to design the new things. So whenever you are using some POs related to skill set, the Bloom's taxonomy, what you have to follow is these levels. So for POs, you cannot deals with skill set. You cannot use remember, understand, apply, analyze, and evaluate and create. This POs is only for knowledge domain. These POs will not talk about skill domain. But our POs is having when the student is going out of the college after the BTech, you have to check whether what is the skill set of the student, what is the knowledge level, and what is the attitude. These three parameters should be verified. That is the reason our POs are designed for setting of these 3 parameters. Now the third one is attitude or affective domain. Affective domain, in again you will have 5 levels in the affective domain, that is receiving. Suppose if you have a term paper or you are making the students group discussions in your classroom, whether all the students are listening or reading carefully or not. If every student is listening carefully to the instructions and he is reading whatever you are giving, then the person is particular mode is receiving mode. So this is the low level of affective domain. Generally, we will call this level as passive mode. And the second one is responding. So whatever the questions you are asking to a student in the class, if he is able to respond the things, then it is the second level, that is also known as active mode. Third one is valuing. Whenever the students performing in a group discussions, if you give some values to other people, whatever the ideas they are giving by the other teammates, this talks about the third level in affective domain is valuing. Next, organization, taking the views from the different aspects and comparing all the views and giving his own idea on the concept is nothing but organization. And the fifth one is characterization. It should have the basic theme in the education is, one we are talking about knowledge and the one is wisdom. A knowledge without wisdom is zero. To have the wisdom, you should have the attitude. A simple example is E is equal to mc square, which was derived by the Einstein, which gives the relation between the energy and the mass. That talks about the knowledge. With the same formula, we have derived the atom bomb. That talks about our wisdom. And how to use the atom bomb, it talks about the wisdom. So whenever our sending our students to the outside the world, the attitude plays a major role rather than the knowledge. So whether we are evaluating our students with respect to the attitude and with respect to the psychomotor domain or not. If we are evaluating, what types of taxonomies or what types of tools you are following to evaluate your student skill sets, like skill set and attitude. Basically, for evaluating the knowledge, attitude and skill, we are following only one taxonomy, that is Bloom's taxonomy, and same skill set, which is applicable only for knowledge but not for other two. What exactly we have to follow is, we have a different taxonomy for affective domain, we have a different taxonomy for psychomotive domain, and we have a different taxonomy for knowledge domain. So on a whole, you have to test your student skill set on these 3 domains by using these 3 different taxonomies. I hope this point is clear, or you are having any doubt regarding the 3 domains. Is it clear regarding the 3 domains, or you are having any doubt? Anyone? If you take a class, you will have a different set of students. If you take a syllabus, you will frame COs with different levels. A different set of students, a COs with different levels. Are you teaching with different levels, and are you assessing with different levels? This is the most important in outcome based education. You cannot keep a competition for an elephant and a fish to swim in the pond. Or you cannot keep a competition for a monkey and dolphin to climb the tree. Both are at different levels. And the skill set of monkey is different and the skill set of dolphin is different. And the skill set of elephant is different. So depending upon the skill sets, you have to evaluate. And depending upon the skill set and depending upon their learning abilities, you have to teach. That's the reason we have thinking about new learning methodologies like collaborative learning, blended learning, flipped learning, all these things. Now coming to the flipped learning. Actually, in general, what we will do is teach, test. If everyone understand and everyone pass the test, okay. If not, what we have to do? Reteach, retest. Again, if not, again reteach, retest. Finally, all the students in the class should attain that particular outcome, whether it is happening or not. It may be or may not be possible since the different level of students are have. In a class, we'll have different set of students. So to focus on the student who are we are considering as a slow learners or their domain of learning is different. Some will learn easily by seeing the things. Some will learn easily by listening the things. Some will learn easily by practicing the things. So in order to facilitate all these three, we have different types of learning techniques like blended learning, flipped learning, collaborative learning, etc. The way how a flipped learning is different from a traditional learning. The concept of flipped learning is entire the education is focused towards the student centric rather than the teacher centric. Here, teacher will not deliver entire the class throughout the class, and some portion of the syllabus. And one more important thing is you cannot deliver all the classes by means of flipped learning. And you have to choose the topic which is useful and which can be taken for flipped learning classroom. Flipped learning allows students to learn at their own pace. That is one of the advantages while you are going for flipped learning, and is customized and engaged. They can take their own pace and they can at any place they can learn the things. And you have to provide the recorded lectures for the students. And what is the importance for flipped learning model and traditional learning model? In case of traditional learning model, I am only talking about the cognitive domain or the knowledge domain. In traditional domain model, you will assess in the classroom is remembering and understanding. We will teach and we will ask a question for a student. And if you understand, he will give the answer. So in the classroom, you are able to assess only two levels. That is remembering level and understanding level. And what about the other two levels? Apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. Those levels, if we go for a traditional way of teaching, whether you are giving emphasis on these levels in the classroom or not. If you are not giving emphasis on this level in the classroom, you should not ask any question or any CO should not be written on these levels. What we teach, that we should ask. Now, if you go for a flipped learning model, you are providing a material in the form of a book or your notes or a video, anything for the student before coming to the class, so that the student able to learn the things and understand. In the classroom, you will provide, there are a number of techniques by grouping the students into small clusters, and you are asking individual group one questions. After asking individual group one questions, you are framing, you are connecting all these questions, and you are giving some of the applications where you can evaluate the things. So when you go for a flipped learning model, remember level and understand level will be happen before the students are coming to the classwork. So inside the class, we are in a position to make the student apply the things what they have learned, and make the student to evaluate, to analyze the things what they have learned, and as a whole of the class, they can in a position to evaluate what others are telling and what he has learned, and what is the perspective of the instructor or a facilitator. So on a whole, in the flipped learning class, the student able to apply, analyze, and evaluate. So that's the reason why mostly many universities are slowly going towards a blended learning or flipped learning. We can assume that entire syllabus we cannot be completed by using the flipped learning model. At least 25% of the syllabus can be done by using this model, so that you are majorly focusing on the other two levels: apply, analyze, and evaluate. The major four pillars of flipped learning. One is flexible enrollment, where the student can have their own environment to study the things. Another one is learning culture. You will have the learning culture by having the group discussions and by taking their own notes or by searching the websites or anything. So it will also incorporate the self-learning things and intentional content. We will provide a content which is based on the particular learning outcome. The content cannot be anything what you can simply give your, before you read this and you come to the class. While coming to the class, while giving to a content for the student, you have to fix what is the learning outcome you want to assess the student, or you want to make the student to learn. Depending upon the learning outcome, you have to fix the content here. And finally, there will be the student point of view. He will be learning the content with respect to the outcomes. As a teacher point of view, you are providing a more insights for the particular topic to achieve the outcome. So you will provide a professional education. So these all four comes under the four pillars of your flipped learning. Flip means flexible, L means learning, I means intentional, and P means professional. So the major focus of the flipped learning is to involve the students in the process. The major focus on the flipped learning concept of the flipped learning is to engage the students outside the class as well as inside the class. So in the classroom, since remember level and understand level are completed by the student with their own phase in the classroom, You can go for a project-based learning by giving some task for the students, and you can go for the application things, and you can talk about the real-time world applications, and you can go into the deeper into the subject. The major responsibilities of the teacher is monitoring the work. In a flipped learning classrooms, the first thing is you fix a learning outcome, and depending upon the learning outcome, you pick one concept suitable for your flipped learning classroom. That is the first task. Depending upon your learning outcome, you provide the material for the students before coming to the class, and ask the student to spend some time on the material what you have provided in the form of videos or anything, and ask them to have a group discussions among them. And inside the class, you have to provide the students with activity based. And at the end of the class, you have to take the feedback. Feedback is the one of the important aspect in the flipped learning classroom. And after the taking the feedback, evaluation also should be completed in the class. Classroom, you engaged for application oriented, and you have to complete the evaluation also inside the class. And before coming to the class, what the student faculty has to do, if you are providing a video, how many students have viewed your video? And if you're providing a presentation, how many students have viewed your presentation? How many students have viewed your document? You have to verify it. After verifying that, then only we have to go to the class. So some of the flipped learning techniques is case-based learning, guide inquiry learning, team-based learning, peer instructions, etc. So what are the individual activities you can provide inside the classroom as a part of flipped learning? Clickers and polling. You ask a question and you give a polling, just how we are doing this now. And word verb and concept map. You take the keywords of the concepts what they have learned. From each and every keyword, ask them to phrase the sentence so that they will now never forget the concept. And individually, you can ask the student to solve the problems on the given task, on the given topic. If you want to do a group activity inside the flipped learning classroom, think, pair, share. Ask them to make a group and ask them to think and ask them to share what they have made. And you can ask them to have a role play on a debate like things on the particular topic. So preparation of out of class materials, in class detailed planning are most important things in flipped learning. And whenever you want to provide a video for your student as a part of flipped learning, our video should not be more than 8 to 9 minutes or maximum 15 minutes. You cannot give a 50 minutes or 45 minutes videos to watch for the student to come back the class. If you had entire videos, you bookmark important portion of the video and you provide to the students. And what type of evaluation criteria we're following inside the class, and what are the rubrics you are using for evaluating criteria is most important in the planning of flipped learning classrooms. And for a flipped learning classroom, ICT tools plays a major role like screencasting device, online survey forms, simulation softwares, and LMS. Out of class activities for the students is to watch our videos and to familiarize with the concept and you can form quiz and group discussions, and you can form insights on the videos by providing some quizzes in between. After 1 minute, 2 minutes, you can ask one quiz, and after completing of the quiz, then you can go for the next topic, and after that again you will have a quiz, and after that again you'll go for the next topic. And what should not be a flipped learning classroom? Lectures, students watching the lecture, teachers giving the class. So in the flipped learning classroom, teachers need to create a structured learning, both inside as well as outside the classroom. You have to well plan what are the activities you want to conduct inside the classroom and what are the activities you are conducting outside the classroom. So this is the flow what we will have for a triple learning classroom. Capturing the videos through a devising a video capture and posting the video in the platform where the student can see the videos, and after that make it as interactive by using some tools, ICT tools. You can make it as an interactive. That means Edpuzzle and PlayPost, ClickView, Office Mix is video editing softwares to make the videos is more interactive by adding some blind spots at particular points. You can have some questions in the video so that you can use these platforms. After that, you can share the video for the students. After sharing the video with the students, then it's the time to the students to watch the video and to have a group discussion among their peers with the videos. Now coming to the assessment. Any class without assessment will not be completed, as you are talking written test is only, even though we are talking about hearts, written test is only assessment tool to compile the lots. That means only remember, understand, at worst case apply, not more than that. So to assess hearts, you should have performance tests. So the performance test types are providing experiments and providing a simulation softwares to design the things, and giving a project which talks about project based learning, and to build a prototype, and asking them to test the equipment, or and asking them to have a discussions, asking them to present the concept what they have learned, and going for a field studies. So these all comes under performance tests, which are useful to assess the hearts. Now, what is the importance of our rubrics to assess? Why we require a rubric? Rubric in education is an assessment guide used to evaluate the learning. It's a scoring guide, a set of criteria for grading assessment. Rubric describes the level of quality of for each learning assessment. One of the important things for rubrics is it will give a clear guidelines and targets for the classroom. And it can reduce the time of the individual teacher and energy tracking the learning outcomes. And we can see how much percent of the level of outcome whether the students are achieved or not. And these rubrics are classified into three types. One is holistic rubric. In holistic rubric, it is a simple, we don't have exact final outcomes, and the teacher want to assign a single core. This is one-dimensional rubrics. Again, as a cognitive domain of Bloom's taxonomy, we had one-dimensional rubrics and two-dimensional rubrics. Holistic rubrics works well when there is no one correct answer or response. There won't be exact answers or a response. So in a holistic rubrics, you will give a level 1 if excellent. It is level 1 from 90 to 100%. We're considering as excellent. 80 to 90% very good. 70 to 80% good, and 57 to 70% needs work, and less than 50% poor. But these rubrics, holistic rubrics, are not useful for evaluating the students. So that you have to go for a two-level rubrics, two-dimensional rubrics. Two-dimensional rubrics are analytic rubrics. These two-dimensional rubrics will have two things. One is performance criteria, and the one is quality. What is your performance criteria? And what is the quality you are expecting from the students? So while you are designing a two-dimensional rubric for a class, only think what are the parameters you want to assess, and then what quality you want to assess the parameters. These two things are very important. See, the performance criteria, I'm taking just example of a two-dimensional rubrics of, or we are considering this one as an analytic rubrics. Here, my performance criteria, what I'm considering is knowledge of the subject matter. What is the knowledge the student is having on the particular subject? Whether the student is having the critical thinking or not, whether the student is having the communication skills or not, communicating effectively or not, and whether the student is able to apply the knowledge in a similar circumstance or not. So these are the four performance criteria I am considering to evaluate the student on rubric basis. Now, when I want to evaluate the student on this performance criteria, what quality? So I had divided into 5. One is excellent, very good, good, needs work, and poor. That percentage you can give. Now you see the two-dimensional mapping. If the student shows proficient understanding of the subject matter of the particular knowledge field, then he comes under excellent. If the student having adequate understand of the subject, then he is very good. If the student is having the basic understanding of the subject or the knowledge, then he is good. If he is not able to understand the particular topic, he has to improve his work. If a student is failed to understand the subject matter, yeah, he is very poor. When you are talking about this two-dimensional mapping, it is a digital. Now coming to the critical thinking versus quality. If he is able to identify various scenarios and applied critical thinking to provide meaningful feedback, then these domains you are considering, we can consider as he is excellent. If able to identify various scenarios and applied critical thinking to provide feedback, he is very good. If he is able to identify if he is failed to identify various scenarios but applied critical thinking to provide feedback, is not able to identify different things, but is applying some critical thinking to provide the feedbacks, then you can tell that he is in the domain of good. Identified various scenarios but failed to apply the critical thinking. He has to improve it. If failed to identify various scenarios and failed to apply the critical thinking, he is very poor. If you want to judge the skill set in terms of a communication of a student, he has communicated using proficient language and effective knowledge transfer capabilities, then he is good in communication. He is communicating using excellent language and displayed knowledge transfer capabilities. He is very good in communication. So this is the level where you can frame a two-dimensional rubrics for assessing a flipped learning classroom. Not only flipped learning classroom, you can provide the rubrics in the regular class also to assess, to assess the hearts. Another one, the third type is checklist. While you are creating the rubrics, the checklist rubrics are very simple and very effective. Here, criteria is 1 and the quality is only achieved or not achieved. 2, digital. See here I am giving the quality domain I have divided into 5 scale and 5-point scale, so that you can group them into any one of them. But here in case of checklist rubrics, if you achieve presented advocate expert in the subject matter, if you achieved S or no. Has necessary background knowledge in the subject, if you achieved it is S or no. So what is the drawback of this type of rubrics is, finally assessment is on digital and you cannot get exact assessment of the students, the level of understanding of the students. And from my end, I completed. If you had any queries, you can ask. Madam?
Yes, sir. So thank you for giving us a session, sir. So participants, is there any query or do you want to interact? Please unmute, you can have your interaction now. I think there is no more queries, sir. So Kishore sir, thank you very much for giving and sparing your time. So in spite of your busy schedule, I think you have touched the complete teaching, learning, as well as the evaluation procedure, and you have clearly you have explained with regard to the rubrics is concerned. So it is definitely a very useful session to all the participants. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, madam.
So participants, feedback link has been kept in the chat box as well as in the Telegram group. So please fill your feedback before 1 p.m. Thank you all.